Dear students, today we are going to study some of the writings of a famous scientist, Albert Einstein. During various occasions, Einstein had spoken and written, and these have been collected in a volume called Ideas and Opinions. In our prescribed syllabus, we have 3 units from this volume. The units are called, first one, The World as I See It, the second one, On Freedom, and the third one, Society and Personality. We shall have 3 lessons on Einstein, and in each of these lessons, we shall study one of the units of his ideas and opinions. But before I begin, I would like to know from you what you know about Einstein as a thinker and writer. Vidarshana, can you tell me?
Yes, ma'am. Einstein is remembered as a writer and thinker with a vision. In fact, from his writings, we get an illustration of his rational mind, his clear thinking, as well as his righteous nature. Einstein was also known as a progressive thinker. As he gained publicity, his opinions also had gained a lot of fame, but he never expressed himself aggressively or never took a dogmatic stance. In fact, he was very modest in his approach because most of the topics he dealt with were topics of general human concern, and although they were very far away from science. In fact, he was socially conscious and as well as politically opposed to war and destruction. Though he belonged to a generation which tried to root out religion from the intellectual fields, he was a very deeply spiritual person. And also, apart from this, he was a person who exercised caution over the use of science and technology. In fact, he said that excessive use of science and technology would only have destructive effects on the innate greatness of human beings, and also that people would subscribe to a herd culture.
That's very good. Now, I would like to know something about Einstein as a person. Can you tell me something about his life?
Actually, Albert Einstein is one of the most notable intellectual giants of the 20th century. He was born in Ulm, Germany in 1879. His parents were Hermann Einstein and Pauline. In fact, his mother had great love for music. And since then, Albert Einstein had taken violin lesson since the age of 6, and this passion for music remained for him throughout his life.
The family moved to Munich when he was a baby, and his formative years were spent there. In 1895, the Albert family has moved to Milan, Italy, because the father's business in Munich has been failed. In 1896, Albert has joined in Swiss Federal Institute of Polytechnic in Zurich. Though not a very accomplished student, in 1900 he hold the degree from the same institute for teaching the subjects like mathematics and physics. In the same year, he renounced the citizenship of German, and till 1921, when he continues as a Swiss citizen, he was stateless.
From 1902 to 1909, he worked at the Swiss Patent Office at Berlin. He got his PhD from the University called Zurich in the year 1905. He became professor for the same university in the year 1909. Later on, he shifted to German University at Prague.
But when the World War I broke out in 1914, Einstein's pacifist temperament did not allow him to support Germany, for which he was widely condemned. He won the Nobel Prize in 1921 and gave the prize money to his wife. In 1933, he was in USA. Hitler came to power in Germany, and Einstein did not want to return to his native land. He was offered a position at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, where he worked for the rest of his life. He urged the US to make the atomic bomb before Germany, but he was not actually involved in the process. He became an American citizen in 1940. In 1952, Israel had offered him the post of a president, but he declined this honor. In 1955, he passed away.
That's excellent. All of you have given your ideas about Einstein as a thinker and writer, and many interesting facts about his life. I'm really happy that you know so much about Einstein already. Now let us move on the first of the units, which is entitled, as you remember, it is entitled as The World as I See It. Let us now talk about Einstein's opinion about the meaning of life. Einstein says that he finds it very strange that people do not know what is the purpose of existence. He says that there are a very few people who have a vague idea about this, but since they do not have the time to think about it, they actually do not know why they are living. Einstein says if you notice your daily life, you will find at least one of the aims of life, and that is, we live for others. In this category, Einstein talks about two groups of people. The first group are those people whose happiness makes us happy, that is, people whom we love. And the other group, he says, are unknown strangers. A large number of such people work hard to make our life comfortable. He gives an example here. Einstein says that the food which is on your table has to be grown by a farmer. It has to be sold by a merchant. It has to be cooked by someone before you can get it. He feels a sense of humility when he thinks that thousands of unknown people are working to make his life comfortable. He also wants to give a little in return for all the help which others are giving to him. He owes a debt to society which he wants to pay back. Therefore, he says that it is important for him to work hard and also not use too many of the resources. If he uses up too many resources, then he might be depriving others. A good aim in life, he says, is to live a simple and modest life. Einstein also mentions that he does not believe in class distinction because this is the result of the people in power exploiting the people who are powerless. Einstein does not subscribe to this kind of division in society. Then he says that if we are really talking about freedom of people, there are two reasons why total freedom is illogical. One is that there are many external compulsions which determine our freedom, and the other is that we have certain internal compulsions also which determine our freedom. But within these limitations, we should still strive for freedom. He quotes here the words of Schopenhauer. He says that according to Schopenhauer, a person can do what he wants, but he cannot want what he wants. Now, do any of you know who Schopenhauer is?
He was a noted German philosopher who wrote the famous book, The World as Will and Idea.
That's excellent. Now, the quotation which Einstein has given from Schopenhauer means that sometimes our desires are undesirable. Einstein is deeply inspired by this saying. He says in his life he has faced many difficulties and he has seen the troubles of others. This has taught him to be open-minded, to be tolerant, and it has also taught him to look on the lighter side of life. Now Einstein speaks about the meaning of existence. He says that very often people on the objective level do not think about the meaning of existence. But subjectively, everybody has an ideal. His ideal, Einstein's ideal, is kindness, beauty and truth. You must remember kindness, beauty and truth. But he says most people's ideal is success and leisure. He says this is not a good ideal. Success for him and search for luxury, these are negative ideals, because he has already told us that we should live a simple life. Now, one last point. Einstein confesses that in spite of his social ideas, he is a person who loves solitude. He describes himself as a loner. He says that he cannot even be close to people who belong to his own family, because each individual is different. And he believes in complete self-reliance in certain matters which concern only himself. Now Einstein speaks about democracy as his political ideal. I'm sure you already know this, because when you were talking about his life, you mentioned two very important points. One is that when Hitler came to power in Germany, Einstein did not return to Germany at all. He chose to settle down in America. And the second point is that Einstein chose America, which is considered as the cradle of democracy. So obviously, his ideal has to be democracy. Now, we are also living in a democracy, as India is the largest democracy. Before I tell you about Einstein's opinions on democracy, can I ask you something about what you think about democracy? Gopi will tell me.
Yes, madam. Democracy is a form of government for the people, by the people, and of the people. This definition has been given by the President of America, Abraham Lincoln.
That's very good.
When India became independent, it adopted the democratic form of government instead of choosing the presidential model. It took up the parliamentary democracy as it is practiced in UK.
Democracy is considered to be the best form of government because in it all people can participate.
Okay.
But ma'am, there are many problems in democracy as well. Because we've seen that after 65 years of independence, we still have problems with it. For instance, the majority may not always be right, but in a democracy, majority always wins. And therefore, unless we have a mature electorate, a democracy cannot function properly. And we find that most people do not think, they just follow what is being asked by others to do so. And in fact, that is why today the one common word which is common in democracy is vote bank politics, which is actually a negative term because everybody has a say in the government and the governance.
Okay, you have given your ideas about democracy. I'm happy that all of you are thinking about such crucial issues, exactly as Einstein has also been thinking. Now let me tell you what Einstein says about democracy. First, he says that in a democracy, no single individual gets importance. All get equal respect and reverence. But he gives his own example. He says, because of his scientific reputation, he has got more than his share of admiration. And this is not right. We know from this that Einstein is a very humble person. He is a great intellectual, so he deserves respect. But still, he says, in a democracy, all are equal. Of course, he qualifies this statement by saying that even in a democracy, we need exceptional individuals as leaders, because the people have to follow the leaders. Today, we do not have exceptional leaders. This is one point which he mentions, because in a democracy, if you have a dictatorial leader, the common people will be led in the wrong way. He gives the example of Italy and Russia, who are having problems with democracy. Then he mentions America. He says that the American democracy is very healthy because the president is elected for a term which is long enough for him to do some excellent governance. At this point, Einstein shows the balance of his opinions. He says that Germany is also commendable. The German government helps those people who are ill and those who are poor. Therefore, he says that it is an excellent government. Finally, Einstein says that politics is not as important as creativity. So democracy should encourage those people who are talented, who are artistic and creative, because the common people need a model to emulate, and these great individuals can become models. The military system of government. Einstein says that if he hates anything, it is the military system of government. He says people who wear a uniform and march in force to some music are not human at all. They are exactly like machines, because they have a brain which they do not use. He says that they should not have even been given a brain. They should only have had a spinal cord. Military governance, he says, is enforced patriotism, because momentarily people become heroic and cause senseless violence. Here, Einstein says that he hates war. He will never participate in a war, he says, even though people threaten to cut him into pieces. Already we have noted that he is a pacifist, and here we get this idea of his pacific temperament. Einstein says that common people do not want war because it is very uncivilized. Every common person prefers peace. Then why do we have so much war? Einstein says that commercial and political interests keep the desire for war alive. He also blames the press and media and the schools for encouraging people to subscribe to war. He says that he hopes soon society will come to a completely peace-loving state where people will not hanker for war. Don't you think these ideas of Einstein are relevant today?
Today, there is so much of unrest is going on in the world. I think Einstein's views are very relevant today.
I think that's true. Because what he says about the peace being the choice of people is right. And if you ask any military man whether he wants war, he will surely say no. Because he is into fighting and killing people only because his bosses ordered him to do so.
And the politicians of the powerful countries declare war for their personal interest. That is also wrong.
Yes, but it is strange. Why Einstein wanted to make the atomic bomb for America when he actually wanted peace?
Often, such moves are for self-preservation, for protecting the nation. After talking about the evils of war, now Einstein mentions a very significant point, and that is about religion. He says that in life there is something very mysterious, inexplicable, something which creates a sense of awe and wonder. This he describes as religion or God. He says that a person who is incapable of feeling this mystery, who is incapable of wonder, is almost dead. Such a person is not even alive, he says. Sometimes this sense of mystery causes fear, but Einstein says, in spite of that, it is a very beautiful experience. It cannot be explained by reason, by knowledge, by thought or mind. It is something which comes to us from a very primitive level, and this Einstein calls as true religiosity. According to Einstein, this sense of wonder is what spirituality is all about. But he says he does not believe in a God who is a God who gives punishment or who rewards or who gives us eternal life. He says these are for weak-minded people. He does not believe in them. Then what is Einstein's spirituality? Here we find that Einstein says God to him represents a concept of eternity. God represents a model of reason. When he looks at the world around, he finds that it has a perfect design. He calls this as the cosmic intelligence, and he says by looking closely at nature, you can easily find God there. The great creative talent of scientists, artists, etc., comes from this sense of wonder, this participation in spirituality. Now, let me ask you what you think about Einstein's opinion on God and spirituality.
Einstein does not talk about an institutional religion. In fact, instead of calling it religion, we should say that his opinion shows spirituality.
Yes, I think so too. In fact, Einstein has expressed his belief in oneness of all beings and the presence of God in nature as the hidden intelligence, which helps the universe to function as a whole. And he says that he also does not believe in having a personal God.
Many of us believe God has personal in India, but our great scriptures also speaks about God has impersonal. It is the highest level of spirituality that believing a God has impersonal.
But it's also very difficult for an ordinary person to think of God as a concept, because only a person as brilliant as Einstein could think so. For others, personal God is a step in the process of the spiritual evolution.
That's a good discussion. I'm happy that you are so involved in the ideas of Einstein, and you are giving your own ideas to supplement what he has said. After all, our education should make us intellectual, and we should have the right ideas and opinions on these important subjects exactly as Einstein has. Till now, we have studied the content of Einstein's lesson. The lesson was called The World as I See It. Now, we shall use the matter in this lesson to make our communication skills better. As you know, in today's world, English communication is very important. And the 4 skills we need to develop are LSRW. Listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These are the 4 important skills. Let me ask one of you to read a small passage from the text in order to test your listening skill. Can you read a paragraph, Vidarshana?
My passionate sense of social justice and social responsibility has always contrasted with my pronounced lack of need for direct contact with other human beings and human communities. I am truly a lone traveler and have never belonged to my country, my home, my friends, or even my immediate family. With my whole heart, in the face of all these ties, I have never lost a sense of distance and a need for solitude, feelings which increase with the years. One becomes sharply aware, but without regret, of the limits of mutual understanding and consonance with other people. No doubt, such a person loses some of his innocence and unconcern. On the other hand, he is largely independent of the opinions, habits, and judgments of his fellows and avoids the temptation to build his inner equilibrium upon such insecure foundations.
That's good. Remember that when you read, your speaking skills also improve. So make it a habit to read at least one page every day and read it aloud. Vidarshana has read a paragraph from the essay. Now I want to know whether your listening coincides with your understanding. Can any of you tell me what you have understood? Can you summarize this idea, Deepika?
Yes, madam. I shall try. Einstein was an introvert. He says that in spite of being a person who was concerned with others and fulfills his social responsibility, still he prefers to be alone. He is not even close to his own family because people cannot understand exactly what others and completely. He says that it is better to be a self-sufficient rather than depending on others.
That's good. Now let us see if we can do an exercise on vocabulary and usage based on the passage which was read out. Can you give the meaning of the word contrast, Karthik?
Difference.
That's good. Now let's see if you can make a sentence with this word contrast.
There's a contrast between Einstein's opinions about social responsibility and his behavior on solitude, of seeking solitude.
Okay. Now tell me the meaning of the word temptation, Gopi.
Appeal.
Appeal. That's right. Now, can you make a sentence with it, Karthik?
You must not give into the temptation of spending more than you can afford.
That's very good. Now, let us check our spellings. Vocabulary, usage, and spellings are very important when we are writing English. So, for your written communication, these improvements will help you greatly. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you tell me which words are spelt differently in British English and in American English? Each of you can give one example. Vidarshana?
In American English, traveler is spelt with a single L, whereas in British English, the word traveler is spelt with a double L.
That's right. Now, Karthik, can you give an example?
In American English, organization uses Z. In British English, it uses S.
That's right. Now, Gopi, can you give an example?
The word labor is spelled in American language without U, whereas in British language it is spelled with the letter U.
Okay, now Deepika, can you give an example?
The word judgment is spelt in American language without using E, whereas in Britain with using E.
Okay, all of you have given very good examples. Now remember that whenever you read a text, you must look at the spellings. Check out whether they are using the American variety or the British variety. Whenever you are writing English, choose either American or British. Never use in your answers or your written scripts a combination of British or American. Keep to the uniformity. This is the language work we have done based on the first unit of Einstein's writing, The World as I See It. To conclude this first unit, let me tell you that Einstein began by speaking about the aim of existence. Then he spoke about democracy and the military system. Finally, he concluded by talking about the meaning of spirituality, his faith in the kind of God, and what it means to be a creative individual both in the field of sciences and arts.